When Martin Luther said Scripture alone, he didn't mean what many people assume today. To understand him, we have to look at his cultural context, his habit of using the word alone, and how later movements stretched his emphasis into something he may not have recognized. Hey, I'm Kobe. I have a bachelor's and master's in ministry, a master's of divinity. I'm currently getting my master's in Jewish studies, and I'm also a PhD student in church history and historical theology. This semester, I am taking a seminar specific to the Theology of Martin Luther. So what I hope to accomplish is just to be able to share with you some of the more interesting things I learned in lecture. In the 16th century, the church's authority rested on a web of papal decrees, canon law, and scholastic theology. Scripture was central, but always mediated through layers of tradition. Luther pushed back on this. For him, Scripture was the final court of appeal. Popes and councils, they could err, but the biblical text, interpreted through the gospel of Christ, could not. That is what he meant by Sola Scriptura, Scripture as the highest authority, not Scripture in isolation. Luther's habit of using alone came through clearly in his German Bible translation. In Romans 3:28, he added the word alone to faith alone to emphasize Paul's point. Critics noted that the word wasn't in the Greek, but Luther defended it. He said the German idiom required it and the theology demanded it. For him, grammar had to serve the gospel. This same emphatic style carried into Sola Scriptura. Scripture alone did not erase tradition, but marked Scripture as decisive over and against rival authorities. It was an emphatic way of saying this is decisive. You also need to understand the polemical contrast. Faith alone means faith apart from works as grounds of justification, not faith isolated from works of love, just as Scripture alone means Scripture over councils and popes, not Scripture cut off from history, teachers, or community. Luther still cited Augustine, Bernard, and church councils. He expected pastors to learn Hebrew, Greek, and the writings of the church fathers. But over time, that rhetorical alone hardened and changed. The humanist impulse that came with early reformers and their heirs leaned heavily on the ad fontes cry, or back to the sources. The Bible became the prime source read in Hebrew and Greek. Then, with Protestant scholasticism in the 17th century, Sola Scriptura became a fixed dogmatic formula, alone sharpened into precise definitions, less pastoral and more systematic. The Enlightenment followed, and here alone shifted again. The Bible plus autonomous reason became sufficient. Tradition itself was distrusted, and Scripture was isolated from the church altogether. By the 19th and 20th centuries, in low church Protestantism, the phrase often meant no creed but the Bible. Alone was taken literally, Scripture apart from creed, councils, or tradition, and it was flattened into proof texting. So when Luther said Scripture alone, he wasn't calling for a Bible cut off from history or community. He was marking Scripture as the decisive voice over popes, over councils, and over canon law. It was later traditions that took alone more literally and oftentimes more rigidly than Luther himself intended.